Say, who's that over there? Another captain from your era?
Looks like our uniform. I think I might know him, actually. Tanner. No, that's not it. Banner.
From the Eagle. Tanner was captain of the USS Saratoga a long time ago. He looks like he needs someone to talk to. I'll go ask. Excuse me. Captain's Log Supplemental. As I walked over to the bar, I happened to run into a Vulcan captain. By his uniform and Idic-shaped insignia patch, I realized he was captain of the USS Intrepid, but not the one commanded by Captain Sarek. It had to be Satak, the captain of the original Intrepid, which had been destroyed by a giant space amoeba, similar to the one that almost ate my shuttlecraft years ago, but much larger. Excusing myself, I continued on. Near the door, I spotted Sarek himself and nodded in his direction. He seemed to be curious about the door and his surroundings, and I knew he must have just arrived here for the first time. Noticing me, he raised an eyebrow, and for a moment I was reminded of my science officer Zonak. Zonak himself had been rescued from the Romulans as a child by another commander of the old Intrepid. The details were classified to this day, but maybe I could find out something tonight. Smiling at Sarek slightly, I indicated our table across the room. He nodded, and I resumed my course through the obstacles of the room toward the bar and a familiar, if younger, face. Hey there.
Oh, hey. I didn't see you, Captain. Captain Martin, isn't it?
It is. Call me Ray. You're Zach Banner of the Eagle, aren't you?
Yeah, that's me.
We were wondering if you'd like to come and join us.
Sure, I can do that. Let me finish my drink here.
Captain's log, stardate 7604.15. While at Starfleet headquarters preparing for a meeting with Admiral Lura regarding my first officer, I seemed to have stumbled upon some sort of pocket universe and stepped into a lounge full of odd characters, including people from many time periods, past and present. Perhaps it's some sort of All Hallows Eve party humans are so fond of. I shall investigate while I wait for the Admiral's office to contact me. I am seeing Starfleet officers, past, present, and possible future, wearing uniforms from over a century ago, as well as others I do not recognize. I'm also seeing recognizable faces, some of whom died in the line of duty, while others yet to be promoted. I'm going to proceed and ask a server as to where I am, and other important pieces of intel to gather information on this place.
But you have heard of me.
Fascinating. Must be some sort of dampening field.
Would you care for a drink, Captain Sarek?
You know me?
I know all the captains who come here. You are Captain Sarek of the Starship Intrepid, the third Starfleet ship to bear the name. My name is Purg. Welcome to the captain's table. Would you care for a drink?
Indeed. I will have Altair water.
Sorry, we don't serve non-alcoholic beverages. It makes for boring stories. Don't look now, Captain, but here comes someone who might want to fight over your ship.
Greetings, Captain. Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper, Captain Satak. I come to serve.
Congratulations on your promotion, Captain. I knew you would reach your goal someday.
Thank you, sir. Most kind.
I am genuine in my compliment, Captain. Tell me, what ship do you command?
It's alright. You can tell him anything. Neither of you will remember anything you talked about when you leave, Captain Sarek.
Very well, Purg. I am in command of the Intrepid, the second starship to bear the name, sir.
Fascinating. Since I will have no memory of this meeting, tell me the disposition of my ship.
The ship and all hands were lost while investigating a giant space-going amoeba in the Gamma Trianguli system. The deaths of 429 Vulcans caused many of us to experience a shock to our systems. It was like an inner scream, then silence. I spoke at the memorial, being the only survivor of the ship. There is now a plaque at Starfleet headquarters and on Vulcan, bearing the name of the ship and all members of the crew. It is a fitting tribute to you and your command, sir.
Fascinating, if unfortunate. Captain, will you join me at the table? I believe you'll recognize some of your comrades.
I would be honored, sir. Tell me, what is this place? I was on my way to meeting with Admiral Lurl.
Sorry, Captain. No admirals allowed in here. It's the captain's table, and it's for captains only.
Gentlemen, I'll be right back. I just spotted some old friends. Sarek, you old space dog. I'm glad you're joining us. Scary, huh, seeing your crew older or former commanders? It takes some getting used to, but I know you, Captain Tough as Nails Vulcan.
Captain Cumberland. I presume you are a captain now.
Yep, and still commanding the Hannibal. Commander Stewart supervised our refit and everything. Ship runs like a charm. What can I get you? First round is on me, Sarek.
I will have an Andorian Galeka juice. Sweet.
Andorian Jaleka juice. Well, might have a good story with that. Coming right up, captains.
Thank you, Captain.
For God's sake, Sarek, after all this time, you still don't call me Frisco. Please, it's Frisco.
As you wish. Frisco.
That wasn't so hard now, was it?
Not at all, Frisco. Have you met Captain Satak? He was my former commander on the original Intrepid.
A pleasure to meet you, Captain.
The pleasure is mine, Captain.
Shall we have a seat?
Frisco, good to see you again. Everyone, this is Francisco Cumberland, an old friend of mine, captain of the USS Hannibal.
Old Allen of the USS Antilles.
Everyone, this is Zach Banner of the USS Eagle.
Hello, Captain Banner. Captain Roop of the USS Grandeur at your service.
Jaina Colt, USS Challenger. You can call me Jaina.
Hello, Zach. Old Allen of the USS Antilles.
Frisco Cumberland, USS Hannibal, also at your service. Good to meet you. These are Captains Sarek and Satak, both of the USS Intrepid, coincidentally. And Ray Martin of the Saladin? How about that? Small world.
Hello, Sarek. Captain Satak. Hello, Frisco. Nice to see you again. So tell me, are you keeping Admiral Navarro's old ship in top condition?
Like she'd let me do otherwise. To Elaine Navarro, a class act.
To Elaine Navarro, finest commander I ever served under.
Hear, hear.
I'm Hikaru Sulu of the USS Excelsior. A pleasure, gentlemen. How are you, Captain Banner?
Here's a chair for you, Zach.
By the way, Sarek, there is a rule here. You have to tell a story about your ship, or past. Any story will do.
In fact, I do have a story. On Stardate 5793.6, Commanders Underwood and Enfield were part of the landing party. It was a purely scientific mission, and it gave some of the junior officers some landing party experience. Commander Underwood was collecting samples to be brought to the ship when an alien slug attached itself to her hand. She pulled the creature off, but then let out a scream and collapsed instantly. The doctor and the landing party pronounced her dead on the scene. Commander Enfield carried her in his arms back to the ship. The doctors on board the Intrepid did all they could to save her, but to no avail. I sent her message to Commander Underwood's parents. There were 2 memorials held, one on board ship and one at her home in Nottingham, England on Earth. Her funeral was on Earth and was well attended by friends and various ships, as well as brass. In fact, I was at Starfleet headquarters when I arrived here. Commander Underwood was a close friend, and I've known her since Starfleet Academy. We have served together before and on other assignments. I will miss her.
I am sorry for your loss, Captain. It is always hard to lose an officer and a good friend.
Yep, it must be tough. In fact, I remember being at that memorial on Earth. Not a dry eye in the house, except for the Vulcans, of course.
I believe it is your turn, Captain Cumberland.
So it is. We had just completed the change of command ceremony on the Hannibal with Captain Navarro and myself. The present and past crews were enjoying the celebration in the rec room, when all of a sudden, the red alert klaxon sounded. Navarro and I rushed to the bridge. Once there, I offered the center seat to her, but she said, "No, Captain, this is your ship now." I nodded and sat with Navarro on my right. Within all the panic, a lone voice came on the communications console, apologizing for the cross circuits, and the klaxon light stopped. Navarro and I laughed at this. We then headed back to the rec room saying, If this is the worst, then the rest of the dry dock departure ought to run pretty smoothly.
It appears that the Hannibal had quite an ordeal. Most interesting.
I'm glad we survived it. I thought you might like that, considering at the time you were Chief of Starfleet Operations.
Indeed. I am sure the brass was amused when the report came in.
You could say that.
So, Captain Banner, I hope you don't mind my asking, but is everything all right with you? You don't look too well.
Oh, it's nothing. I was just about to head back to my ship from my leave of absence.
It seems like there's a little more to this than just your vacation ending, if I may say so.
Well, I was walking around Starfleet HQ a few hours ago and ran into Mr. Rayton. He's a new recruit at the Academy.
Is this Mr. Rayton someone you know?
Yeah, Rayton was the son of my last commanding officer, Commodore Shrellick. I hadn't seen him in person for 3 years. He'd changed quite a bit in that time.
What ship did you and his father serve on, if I may ask?
The Bismarck.
An early experiment in 3 nacelled configurations, if I recall. One of the pioneers. She was decommissioned after being lost with all hands, wasn't she?
Yeah, that's what happened, basically.
Ah, yes. One of my officers informed me of the incident. She's a friend of your engineer, Mr. Elberg, I think.
Yeah, that's him. Rayton just wanted to talk to me about his father and the time I spent with him. But reliving all those memories in my mind was just...
How long ago did that happen?
Just before the Tech-Neb conflict.
That was right after the peace negotiations with the Klingon sacred ruler, the Katoomba, if I remember my history, when one of the large houses rebelled against the High Council and invaded Federation space.
Right. I lost a few men during the conflict, too. Thankfully, the invasion was stopped before it began in earnest, though.
At least Kirk was able to prevent the all-out war that Mountbatten wanted. I was lucky I was on leave and missed that little adventure. I wouldn't have wanted to fly the Enterprise to Kronos. Zahn did a good job.
I heard you had a hand in helping stop the war too, Ray. Why don't you tell us about it? You owe us a story, after all.
I suppose so. I told a story earlier, but that was another table and another group of captains. Well, at the time, the Saladin was tasked with finding a Klingon renegade named Kisha. We did. We delivered him to K7 Space Station in Commodore Probert. After a few high-level meetings, Admiral Sheehan decided that Kirk should take the Enterprise to Kronos to stop the war before it could start.
Why didn't you go, Captain Martin? Saladin found the renegade, after all.
Saladin was heavily damaged in an earlier conflict with the Klingons and the Romulans at Nimbus 3. We lost our deflector dish, and my chief engineer, Mr. Singh, had his crews out there making a temporary strut to remount it, but it wouldn't have held up to get us to Kronos in its jury-rigged condition. Besides, Starfleet felt this mission would need a Constitution-class starship to represent Federation interests, not a lowly destroyer.
But what about the mystery of the Organians' disappearance? I heard you had investigated them just before the Katoomba incident. What did you find out?
All right, I'll start at the beginning, but I'm gonna need another drink.
Margarita for Captain Martin, please. Looks like a frozen one. Okay, Red, let's do it.
Keep in mind, we did not know the details of what I'm going to tell you at the time. Our investigation revealed this, but some of it was after the Katoomba incident.
Understood. Go on.
It was Stardate 2618.6. Saladin was on routine patrol. It had been fairly quiet on our mission, but that was about to change in a very big way. It all started when an alien ship popped out of a wormhole over the planet Organia. Their ship was disabled, and so they beamed down to get supplies. The instant they materialized, there was a massive explosion that devastated Organia, leaving the quadrant without any sign of the Organians themselves. The alien ship fled the scene, and the entire quadrant was destabilized. Just a few light years away, Nimbus 3, a lush world and full of life and beauty, was orbited by ships of the 3 main spacefaring empires, the Klingons, the Romulans, and our Federation. That was where the alien ship went, as it was the closest planet to Organia within their limited range. At the Federation listening post Epsilon 9, Commodore Probert's team learned of the disaster at Organia. Starships were put on alert. The cause of the disaster was still unknown. The USS Saladin was sent to investigate the cause of the devastation. Once we arrived, we determined that a powerful antimatter warhead was detonated there, destroying all corporeal life. There was no sign of the Organians themselves. If they survived, they had apparently retreated to lick their wounds. Saladin found and followed the aliens' trail into deep space, where we unfortunately lost it. Days after the discovery was made that the Organians had vanished, the peace process on Nimbus 3 deteriorated and the conflict began. Meanwhile, the Klingon renegade named Kasha that I mentioned earlier was being hunted by the Klingons. Accusations were that he was a terrorist and was suspected of being the one responsible for blowing up Organia. This was not true. Kasha was the mentor of the Katoomba, the spiritual leader, God Emperor of the Klingons, but he was in exile. His enemies used this propaganda that he was a terrorist as a way to enlist us to help hunt him down. Of course, we didn't know that was the case at the time.
Interesting. I don't think the Organians survived, personally. But do go on.
I don't think they did either, Holt, but time will tell with them. They might just be licking their wounds for now if they did survive. If they didn't, it would be a very sad day. The Organians saved a lot of lives thanks to their treaty. Anyhow, the Saladin was assigned as a backup for a diplomatic mission gone wrong in the Romulan-Klingon Federation border triangle. We had our work cut out for us. We had to rescue the light carrier USS Kelvin, which is disabled over the planet Nimbus 3. Nimbus 3, if you don't know about it, is a world at the dead center of the disputed Triangle sector that could be used by any of the three major powers as a base from which to stage a war on either of the other star empires. With the Organians no longer around to enforce their treaty, any semblance of peace started to fade away pretty rapidly, and it seemed as if the Romulans were only too happy to take advantage of this chaos to further the tensions between us and the Klingons. The Saladin arrived in the middle of this conflict. It was literally open battle when we got there. The same alien ship responsible for the destruction of Organia had appeared over Nimbus 3. They were calling out heatedly in a language that the translators couldn't fathom. Saladin's sensor logs determined that it was a match for the ship that destroyed Organia. My science officers, Zonak and Mitchell, worked together to determine that the ship was made of antimatter and was from another galaxy. Zonak explained that when the aliens beamed to the surface of Organia, the antimatter they were made of reacted with the matter in the air and on the surface and produced an explosion that annihilated the planet's surface almost instantaneously. If we didn't stop them, the aliens might inadvertently do it again. I ordered Lieutenants Randall and Charest to work together to find a translation program that would work to communicate with them before disaster could strike again. Meanwhile, the Romulans and the Klingons were responding to the perceived threat the aliens posed in their usual way, with violence. Zonak's answer exonerated Kasha of wrongdoing, but now it was a fight to prevent another catastrophe over Nimbus 3. We tried to warn the Klingons and the Romulans, but they weren't listening to us. They were adamant that the aliens were hostile. Decker was on the Kelvin and tried to put his ship between Kor's flagship and the aliens. I tried to put the Saladin between Commander Charvanek's ship and the alien as well. Both our ships took a heavy pounding. Neither of them were a match for a D7 or a Romulan KR-7. We couldn't stop them. They damaged the alien ship over the planet, dropping its shields.
Oh no.
Exactly. It was too late. Just as my communications officers made peaceful contact with the aliens, the star's solar wind ripped apart the deteriorating vessel, and its warp core exploded. The EMP it generated and the destruction the exploding pieces of the ship caused on entry into the atmosphere laid waste to much of Nimbus 3, turning it into a disaster zone. The aliens were all killed, and we didn't even learn their identities or their exact point of origin. Kor and Sharvanek fired on us again, blaming us for the loss of the planet, which was in ruins. Decker and I managed to keep our ships from being destroyed, but we had no choice but to retreat and leave Nimbus 3 in the hands of the Romulan-Klingon alliance.
What about this Kasha fellow?
We followed him to Sherman's planet. He was piloting a Klingon freighter. All the while, we were making emergency repairs. When I finally caught up to Kasha, I found his story quite interesting, but the Saladin was in too bad of shape to make the journey to Kronos. I felt bad handing the mission to Kirk, but there really wasn't any choice, and it turned out to be the right one in the end.
But it didn't stop the Teknev incident a few months later.
Some things never changed, Zach. Once the Organians were gone, the Klingons could get back into their typical pattern of aggression, going back to Axanar, or even further.
And Zach, at least you and Kirk were able to destroy Teneb's planetary artillery beam before it was activated. I remember the Antilles had just stopped the Bird of Prey Squadron from taking a small moon when we'd been informed of the armistice.
That was when my ship was tasked with stopping reinforcements in time for the Enterprise's mission. Rayton told me how much of an honor it was to meet me again face to face after hearing about it.
Loss never gets any easier, no matter the medals or commendations. That can never make up for friends that you'll never see again. I've been there way too many times myself. The M5 disaster, the crews of the starships Excalibur, the Exeter, the Constellation, the Saratoga.
So before the war, Zach, you said Shrellick died right before the conflict with the Klingons. How, if I may ask?
It was a few months after I left. An insane alien computer had hacked into Bismarck's main systems. It filled the ship with radiation and kept shouting that it would torture everyone to death.
You said the computer was taunting the crew, like it was toying with them. Why does that seem so familiar?
What about the insane computer? Weren't you afraid to take it back to Starfleet and infect the space station with a computer virus?
We found the source of the computer attack and destroyed it. It was a probe of some kind. It literally seemed like a madman was trapped inside it. It wanted to kill everyone.
Red Jack. That's what that thing sounds like.
Red Jack?
You've heard of Jack the Ripper, haven't you?
Yes. Why? What did he have to do with a crazy computer?
Red Jack, or Baratus, or Keslak, was an alien entity that feeded on fear. The report said it was known as the hunger that never dies. It got into the Enterprise's computer and started taunting everyone. I was pretty concerned about it until Dr. McCoy shot me up with something that left me high as a kite. But that's what it sounds like. Captain Kirk thought he killed it, beamed the body it was inhabiting out into space, spread its atoms into nothingness. It should have been dead.
Unless it found another machine to inhabit, like it did the Enterprise.
Fascinating. I believe that answers a long-standing question from one of the Intrepid's past missions.
Captain Satak, I believe the table is yours now.
So it is. The story I have took place not too long after you became my science officer, Captain Sarek. It was stardate 4914.8. We were en route to Roger 4 investigating an unusual occurrence, the event of which are most distasteful, but relative to our conversation. Some of the Intrepid's crew were on leave per my orders. Starfleet requires that even Vulcans take leave from time to time, regrettably. While on the planet's surface, the unthinkable happened. It would seem some murders had been taking place on Roger 4 that were similar to the most operandi of the ancient Jack the Ripper murders on Earth. Innocent women knocked to death, senseless and barbaric.
I understand, sir, and I remember that time well. As I recall, you asked me to speak. as one of the women murdered was in my science department. As a human would describe it, it was a very somber time.
Indeed, the accused suspects were all exonerated. Each one of them was clueless as to what happened, and the evidence was circumstantial at best. We ended up finding nothing definitive in our investigation. I lost 2 members of my crew before the murderer simply vanished. They were good officers. You saved this entity, Redjack, Baratus, fed on emotions.
Here? Yes. I'm sorry for your loss. We lost Lieutenant Karen Tracy before we learned the nature of the alien. And what we learned was very basic. We never learned its origin. We thought we'd killed it, but apparently not.
Saladin was in the Rigel system at the time. I heard about the murders on the news vid. We had our own mission to deal with, though. Maybe I'll tell you about it later.
But what of your captain, Zack?
Shrellick was the last one to survive. He escaped by shuttlecraft. I found him on Gamma Ceti just before he died.
I'm so sorry.
I understand, Zack. Loss is something every captain will go through. But even if it's a close friend, it's something that can't interfere with your duties.
I know you're right. I've been preparing myself for the possibility of losses of friends ever since the academy, but it doesn't make Sherlock's loss any easier.
I'm sorry. Did I just hear someone say my name?
What? Commodore, you're...
It's Captain Shrellick, actually. Do I know you, sir?
Interesting.
Your uniform. 2250s, if I remember right.
2260, actually.
So you're still in command of the Madison in your time, then?
Yes, we're in port at the moment for upgrades. Again, how do you know me?
We're from your future, Captain Shrellick. Captains Banner, Allen, Sarek, and Colt are about 10 years ahead of your time. I'm Ray Martin, from around 15 or so years out from your time. Captain Sulu and Captain Roop are considerably farther in your future. You might know Satak.
No.
We've never met either, but Captain Banner here is a future acquaintance of yours.
That sounds good.
Yes, we did know each other. You said he won't remember anything I say after we leave, right?
Right. He'll forget anything said in here as soon as he leaves through that door.
Unfortunately, that sounds a tad bit tedious.
I think it's time we let Banner and his friend have one last one-on-one talk.
Agreed.
Right. Here, I'll get you a drink. On me.
I could be interested in something like that.
No, please. I insist. We have a lot of catching up to do.
Sure. Sounds great. Thank you.
You mentioned coincidences, Jamie? I'm starting to think this might not be such a worrisome place after all. I sure wish I could share a drink with my friend Will Decker one last time.
Perhaps next time, Captain Martin, if you find yourself here again, at the right moment.
Well, something to look forward to then. If I remember, that is.
I'm afraid you won't, Captain. It's just not the way this place works. All you'll remember is having a good time, and feeling good when you leave. And wherever you were before, it will be as if no time has passed. Some people have a sense of deja vu on the other side. Perhaps you've had it before?
That's what I remember after leaving here before, yes. That's the best way to describe it, right?
Now I know how that 20th century Air Force fighter pilot Captain Christopher felt when we had beamed him back onto his plane as if nothing ever happened to him. I remember his last words before beaming down. He said, "Thanks for the look ahead."
Damn, Sulu. You get all the good missions.